All right, what's up, everyone? Bryce Gelman here, as always. Beautiful day, beautiful July 4th weekend. Everything is awesome. There couldn't be anything in my life that I could complain about, right? Yeah, that's BS, as always. I mean, listen, not that I create situations to be upset about. Yeah, my personal life, fine. But in terms of sports, I try to be a realist. I'm called a pessimist a lot. Some people tell me I'm very negative, but I think I'm a realist. I had an amazing July 4th weekend. Again, the weather was terrific. Spent some good time with friends. But in the back of my mind, and this is all after the Mike Brown hiring, wasn't too excited about that. I'm content with it. Obviously, we're going to need to see what happens with that. I'm not trying to jump ahead of anything, make any conclusions now. So that was, I was off the heels of that. This Yankees team has been an utter disaster. From top to bottom, starting with the manager, starting with the management of the team, from the front office, the roster construction, the terrible bullpen. There's so much to pick apart. So many negative things that have happened over the last 10, 50. I mean, it's something that I've discussed. I did a TikTok on it. You can check that out at Bryce Gelman. I've been doing some good stuff. A lot of Knicks stuff, a lot of Knicks-centered stuff with everything that's going on with them, but some Yankee stuff as well. And I discussed, do the Yankees have an issue in June? They were terrible in the month of June. Terrible. I believe it's 13-19, the Yankees record since the start of June. And this is now extended into July. The Yankees had a 6-game losing streak. They finally broke that with a win over the Mets yesterday. In a game in which they should have won. You know what I mean? It's not like, okay, here we go. The Yankees are in a 50-50 game, that they're at even odds. They max Fried in the mound. The Mets, a bullpen game. You won a game you were supposed to win. Terrific. Amazing. Is the season saved? Was Cody Bellinger's amazing double play? Was that the season turning point? No, I don't think so. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you, because there's a lot of fans out there and a lot of my friends that tend to get detached from reality when it comes to the Yankees especially. They get all hyped up over tiny wins here and there. And yeah, there's a certain level of pessimism that comes with being a Yankees fan and seeing some terrible play on the field. That is just a given when it comes to Yankees fans and New York sports fans as a whole, but especially the Yankees. A team with such high expectations that hasn't won anything now in 16 years. So for good reason, people are like this, but people aren't. You can't change that. So as positive as my friends and people I see on social media tend to be, when things are going well, they're just as negative when things aren't. And you've seen a lot of stuff thrown out there about changes that this Yankees organization needing to make. And I'm going to get into it all. I'm going to get into, some stats and just some overall observations that I've been seeing from this organization, from the franchise, that have obviously concerned me. I mean, it's been a concerning trend for a very long time. Now, this isn't something new. There have been a few flukes. I've never been totally excited about this team. Maybe, again, 2017, that was their year. They get screwed out of a World Series. Judges screwed out of an MVP by a cheating Astros team that doesn't get their championship, their World Series banner revoked, doesn't get taken away from them like the NCAA does with a lot of their organization, with a lot of the universities that win championships, that cheat, that get players in a legal way. Not Rob Manfred. That's not something he wanted to do. The Astros screwed the Yankees. That was the last time I had a lot of hope for my team, even last year. I thought the Yankees could win the World Series, but I knew their flaws could be exposed against the Dodgers. It was the first real team they faced in the playoffs last year. They had the easiest path that they've had in a very long time to get to that point. Didn't have to play the Astros. Didn't have to play a surging Tigers team. They get to the World Series. All that is exposed. I'm not sitting here and telling you that I expected that was my prediction. I thought the Dodgers were going to win the series, and they did. So it's been a very long time since I've had real hope with this Yankees organization. And even with the Soto trade last year in the offseason, I said everyone was all excited and and sunshine and rainbows, yada, yada, yada. And I said, I'm excited in the short term. The Yankees need to re-sign him. They didn't re-sign him. He goes to the Mets. The Mets take 2 out of 3 in this Subway Series. And there's a lot to pick apart here. The Yankees, again, lost 6 games in a row. They were saved by a solid Max Fried performance yesterday in a game they should have won. They won. Terrific. Congratulations. But, man, I mean, it's someone I want to get started with, because this is a guy who is as polarizing as any player the Yankees have had in recent memory, and someone that a lot of frustration and criticism is fairly directed at. And it's none other than Anthony Volpe. That shouldn't be a surprise to anyone that I'm going to sit here and criticize him, get on him for how bad he has been. A player that over his first 2 years, hitting-wise, has been atrocious, has been extremely underwhelming, but fielding-wise, he's kind of made up for it. And it's not, I think in this era of Major League Baseball, you could live with some bad hitting as long as that player is giving you something in the field and is a really plus defender. Volpe, a Gold Glove recipient. He's been a really good fielder. This year, he sucks, and it's not just behind the plate. I guess that's not the right term, but, at the plate. It's not just at the plate. It's also in the field as well now. So this is something that, again, a lot of people are fairly pissed off about. It's something that a lot of fans are hyper fixating on, and for good reason. He has sucked in 3 years now. After being a top 10 prospect in Major League Baseball, after winning the job outright, the shortstop job, by what he did in the 2023 spring training, deserved it, got it, terrific. 3 straight years of under 700 OPS. 3 straight years of under 300 on base percentage. On base percentage. Not batting average. Not anything like on base percentage. He doesn't walk. He doesn't slug. He doesn't give you anything at the plate. He's a non-factor. And now this year in the field, everything is unraveling for him. It's like when he's in a slump, he's in a slump. There are a lot of players in Major League Baseball, they hit like 180, 190 in a slump. Look at, obviously, Aaron Judge is not a good example because his slump, you went through a slump the last month. He's still hitting 360 after hitting 400 for the first 2 months of the year. We knew that was not sustainable. We knew it would regress to the mean, but I thought maybe a 60, 70 batting average point reduction, a regression. And here he is still at 360. That is a slump for Aaron Judge. And even other players in Major League Baseball who are looked at as some of the best hitting talents in the league. They don't see that big of a regression when they're in a slump. Anthony Volpe, on the other hand, with his slumps, he'll go 2 for 30. He'll go 3 for 50. The guy can't hit water if he fell out of a boat when he's not hitting the ball, when he's not seeing the ball. That's the issue. That's the issue. When he's seeing the ball well and getting on base, he's using all sides of the field. He's actually a good hitter. But it's for whatever reason that is extremely hard to explain, that when he does not have it in terms of like a solid eye and seeing, being able to recognize and identify whatever pitch is coming, where it is in the strike zone, he sucks. He's terrible. And that is who Anthony Volpe is right now. It's who he has been throughout the entire season. Because, again, the on-base percentage is atrocious. He's getting on base less than 3 times out of 10. And this is the guy that you hyped up. This is the guy that prevented you, that held you off from going out and signing a Corey Seager, a Marcus Semien, a Carlos Correa, who obviously, whatever happened there, he gets signed multiple different teams, the Giants, then the Mets, and then ends up back with the Twins. That was never going to be a good situation, but I digress. He was the player that prevented you from going out and getting a superstar shortstop. You thought that this guy was going to be the future. And what has he been since he was called up to the majors? Consistently inconsistent. A guy you cannot rely on as a starting shortstop in Major League Baseball right now, especially on a team like the Yankees, with as high of expectations as the Yankees have, arguably more than any team in all four professional sports. It's the Yankees. He should know better than anyone. He grew up a Yankees fan. That was his dream. It was also Derek Jeter's dream. And Derek Jeter rose to the occasion. He performed when it mattered the most. He led the Yankees to 5 World Series. And it wasn't just that. 200 hits, multiple seasons in his career. 3,000 hits. Like, that is not to say that that's the comparison here, but they both grew up fans of the Yankees. They both wanted to be shortstops, starting shortstops on the New York Yankees. Jeter does it. Hall of Fame career. One of the best players to ever put on the pinstripes. And you look at Anthony Volpe, polar opposite of Derek Jeter. Polar opposite. And you could sit here and tell me, and this is fair, the first 2 seasons of Anthony Volpe yielded 2 seasons of a 3 WAR or over. That's pretty good, right? Like, that's a slightly above average position player. I'm fine with that. It's largely due to what he provided you in the field. This season is a completely different story. He's the worst player on the team. He's the worst starter consistently on the team. The worst consistent starter on the team. And it's like, what the hell did the Yankees do right now? Can you justify trotting him out there as the starting shortstop next year? I don't think so. I don't think so. And it's almost as if, and I'm going to get into this because I think it's an important conversation to have, because I just don't think, as much as the Yankees and Aaron Boone and Brian Cashman and even Aaron Judge and Jazz Chisholm tell you that this team is better than they're playing, that it's right in front of them, something within the organization needs to change. This isn't a new talking point. This isn't a new thing for the majority of Yankees fans, myself included, other people that follow the team a lot more than I do. This has been an ongoing trend and an ongoing sentiment that the Yankees need to make a change, and not just a marginal change. Like, acquiring a lefty, getting someone at the deadline, acquiring another reliever, firing a couple of guys in their analytics department. As much as the players, as much as Aaron Judge, as much as Giancarlo Stanton, the sacred cows of the Yankees team, the leaders, as much as they love Aaron Boone, I think it's malpractice to not be able to correctly observe and criticize what is happening on the field. And the lack of positive leadership in the clubhouse. You look at a team like the Tigers, one of the top records in Major League Baseball, best team in the AL this year. You look at that roster, and then you look at the Yankees roster. The Tigers, they barely have a top 10 bullpen. They don't have guys who really have the power. They have Gleyber Torres, now the starting second baseman on the All-Star team. Great job, Brian Cashman. Great job. He don't want to play third base. They don't want to play Jazz. Guess where Jazz is playing? Guess where he's been playing? Third base. Unreal. Unreal. Like, just the organizational malpractice that happens on a daily basis with this team is as infuriating as anyone I know as a Yankees fan or any team has witnessed. This is like, it's constantly what I come back to. And I'm like a broken record at this point. I've said this maybe 500 times about the Yankees. Like, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. That's the New York Yankees. That's their motto. This is what they do. It's what they're best at. Repeating the same thing and trying to get things different. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Brian Cashman has done a terrible job building this team. I don't think he's the problem. In the past, he's gotten a lot of blame for what has happened. And A lot of that criticism has been earned. But you look at this team, he made some good acquisitions in the offseason. Went out, got Cody Bellinger for what feels like scraps. He has an 800 OPS. He's been really solid in the field. You got Goldschmidt, who started off the season extremely hot. He's kind of regressed back to the mean, still an 800 OPS guy. The Yankees have 7 players who have 770 OPSs or higher. Yet they're 49-41. They're 3-7 in their last 10 games, and they're held back by one major thing. And that's their pitching. As good as Max Fried has been, as solid as Carlos Rodon has been, he's had a few rough starts in his last 5 or 6 outings. He's still been solid. 3 ERA. Fried, of course, with a sub-2.5 ERA. Outside of that, outside of Tim Hill and those 2 guys, what the hell do you have? What pitching do you have? This is the first time in a very long time that the Yankees' biggest strength, or top 2 biggest strength amongst all the different areas of the team, is not their bullpen. Matt Blake has done an outstanding job since he was hired by the team in turning a lot of terrible relievers into solid pieces for this team. This year is a completely different story, and I'm not going to sit here and point the blame at Matt Blake. He doesn't deserve any of it. What he has done up until this point has been magnificent. He's the one guy on the team where you're like, okay, he actually has provided something to them. What has Aaron Boone done? What positive things has Aaron Boone done since he's become the manager of the New York Yankees? Placated players? Coddled players? Refuse to criticize them in the media? Like, well, what positives does that give you? It's very hard to sit here. And it's not just me. You ask any person, again, people who cover the Yankees more than I do, ask them, what positives does Aaron Boone provide the Yankees on a daily basis? And I promise you, besides the fact that the players supposedly love him, you will not get any other answer. No other answer. Not that he's a good motivator. Not that he's good at picking lineups. We have no idea how much power he really has in choosing these lineups. It's kind of been reported that the majority of the lineups and the decisions they make come from the analytics department. So maybe that. Bullpen management. All these are clearly not where they need to be. The discipline in the field. How bad was that last year? The base running. It's been terrible. The Yankees are not a fundamentally sound team. And it's how they got exposed against the Dodgers last year in the World Series. And things have not changed. It's sloppy game after sloppy game after sloppy game. You see Jason Dominguez hit 2 home runs at the top of the lineup on Friday against the Mets. He was hitting number 1, the first in the lineup against a righty. And on Saturday, Frankie Montas on the mound, former Yankee, a right-handed pitcher. Jason Dominguez is batting 6th. Just a day removed from hitting 2 home runs. Can you explain that? No. There aren't many people that can explain that because it's organizational malpractice. How do you hit Jason Dominguez 6th after hitting him first the game before and he had 2 home runs? There's so much to be angry and annoyed with this organization. And we're all like broken records at this point. It's not just me. It's so many other people. And yet, Aaron Boone still has a job. Yet, he was extended last offseason. A guy who hit 1 big home run in his career. And then worked for Baseball Tonight. And Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN. And became the manager of the New York Yankees. A position he's held now for 8 seasons. And what have the Yankees done throughout his seasons? What have they done? They made the World Series. That's terrific. Look at their path. Easy as they've ever had. All AL Central teams, they destroy. And yet here we are talking about another terrible stretch for this team. And I started this out with saying that there are plenty of people that I know that are not as realistic about the team as me, who carry a lot of false hope. You know, some of my best friends that I got into arguments with last year, peddling these conspiracies, I like to say, that Aaron Judge is magically going to work things out in the playoffs. And I sat there and told them, till I see it, I can't believe it. They call me a pessimist. They said I'm an idiot. And guess what? I was proven right. I don't know what could possibly make you believe this organization is going to turn it around until they make a drastic change, until they figure things out. Nothing is going to improve. Team's pitching has been terrible. 14-19 since June 1st, 4.23 ERA since June 1st, ERA of 7 over the last 10 games. Only one game in the last 10, or 2 games technically. Yankees won one of them, where their opponents have scored 4 less runs. The hitting has been solid. The Yankees have been putting up runs. Cody Bellinger has been a revelation. 800 OPS, 122 WRC plus, 2.5 WAR, on pace for a 4.8, 4.95 WAR. It's a really solid player on a championship team. They've got a bunch of these guys. Austin Wells, above average catcher. He's not amazing behind the plate. He's better than Gary Sanchez was. And how many years did they start him? How many years did they turn a blind eye to how bad he was behind the plate? Because of what he offered them at the plate, at the dish. And what was his OPS? 800. Austin Wells is a solid catcher on a championship team. They've gotten amazing seasons out of Trent Grisham, out of Ben Rice. And yet the team is still 49-41. And now we're 3 games behind after holding the lead in the AL East for the majority of the season up until a week and a half ago. Now we're 3 games behind. The amount of talent on this roster, and of course, I'd be remiss in not mentioning the terrible news the other day that Clark Schmidt is going to need Tommy John. He will be out the next year and a half. The number 3 starter. Marcus Stroman now has to start games in the New York Yankees. It's just, when it rains, it pours, ladies and gentlemen. When it rains, it pours. And until something drastic changes, I cannot have hope for this team. And of course, they got the short end of the stick here now with the Clark Schmidt injury. It would be his second Tommy John. They drafted him after recovering, as he was recovering from his first Tommy John in 2017. Second Tommy John. Terrific. You lose Garrett Cole at the start of the year. He needs Tommy John. Those things are out of your control. I understand that. Max Fried signing has been a massive plus for this team. Where the hell would this team be without Max Fried? Leads the league in wins. Is one of the leading candidates for the Cy Young. School was going to win it, but he's right up there. Team sucks. Very hard to sit down and enjoy Yankees baseball right now. And it's very hard to have hope. So that'll do it for my Yankees talk. I mean, I just, now that Mike Brown has been signed and free agency's over, I'm going to be tuning in, unfortunately, a lot more to the Yankees, and you'll start getting a lot more Yankees content from me, from yours truly. But let's talk quickly. I've got about 5 minutes left here before I have to start work. And let's talk about the Mike Brown contract being finalized. Hasn't really been announced from the Knicks yet. I assume that that's going to happen relatively soon. He's getting a $40 million contract, or in the area of $40 million. The Knicks will owe $70 million to Tom Thibodeau and Mike Brown over the next 4 years combined. Listen, it is what it is. I've given my opinion on this. I still cannot understand why you fired Tom Thibodeau just to hire Mike Brown. it kind of confirms everything I've been saying and all the stuff that has been thrown back in my face. And, people telling me I'm wrong, or, people that think they know more than me. And guess what? I was right. Sucks to suck. I'm not going to go on a victory lap here. I'm not going to throw myself a parade. The Knicks had no plan. They brought in Mike Brown. Things could work out, but they had zero plan in mind. They fired Tom Thibodeau on a whim, and they settled on Mike Brown. And we'll see. I mean, offensively, it seems like he's a lot better equipped to handle and to maximize the strengths of this Knicks offense and this team. They're going to have a lot more offensive firepower next year. Guys improve. They signed Jordan Clarkson. They signed Yabusele. Yabusele, by the way, who took a pay cut of around $125,000, which now affords the Knicks not one but two veterans minimum players. So thanks to Gershon, thanks to Brock Aller for figuring that out. The Knicks could not let Brock Aller go. Like, you need to sign him to a $2 million. Like, you got to pay him whatever you want. Like, this guy is a genius, and he's a massive asset to have in this organization. So all hail Brock Aller for figuring out another way for the Knicks to maximize the amount of talent they could put on this roster. And thanks to Gershon for taking that slight pay cut, which to an NBA player, that's not much. But they have now two spots to fill on this roster with veterans minimum contracts. Still looking at a guy like Al Horford. I think he's probably going to go to the West. There's a few other teams that might be interested in him. Chris Paul has announced that it's his last season in the NBA. Where he goes remains to be seen. He can go back to the Clippers. Like, there are a bunch of teams that he could go to and potentially see success. Unless he goes to OKC, team that gives him the best chance to win a championship in the final year of his career is the Knicks. It is. Maybe he goes to the Cavs. I don't think he gets as much playing time. I think on the Knicks, he can get 10 to 15 minutes. He just doesn't want to go somewhere where he's on the bench, where he's a sixth, not even a sixth man, where he's a seventh, eighth man on in a rotation. He's dead set on still being a starter, even as a 40-year-old player in the NBA. It really makes no sense to me. But, hey, to each its own. Good luck to him. I'm finding that. A few other guys out there I'd love to see Landry Shamet brought back in. He really blossomed into a solid bench piece, a solid three-point shooter. Like, I think a 40% three-point shooter, if he's willing to take the veterans minimum, is a massive asset to have. It's not like other teams have a lot of cap space as well. I think the Nets are the only team with like 5 or 6 million or more. Every team is hard capped somewhere. It is being forced to sign veterans minimum deals, and the guys that are still remaining on the free agent market, they probably look for more that they haven't gotten. They're going to have to take veterans minimums. I'd like to see Landry Shamet brought back. I'd like to see DeLon Wright brought back. Two guys very familiar with the city, guys that kind of became fan favorites down the stretch of that Eastern Conference Finals. The Landry Shamet chance in Game 5. Well-deserved. DeLon Wright gave them some solid minutes near the end of that playoff run, too. And, I think that he'd be a solid depth piece at point guard. Doubt he played much. And obviously, you'd like to see Tyler Kolek kind of rise up the depth chart there. I don't think that's entirely realistic. DeLon Wright is much better as a defender. He possesses a lot more size. He's a lot better in the passing lanes. And, of course, is a one-on-one defender with longer arms, and he's 6'5". So you like to see some growth there from him and Pacome Dadier. That I don't know how much you could really count on to see their development, see Huck Porty's development. Huck Porty is now the backup center. Yabusele, Mitch is, but I think Mitch, he'll start some games next year. At least I'd hope so. I think that Josh Hart should not start a single game next year. The Knicks really want to be competitive and be a solid offensive team. They need to maximize spacing. But Harold Porty is going to get some run. Injuries will happen. Mitch, how it works with him every year. Knock on wood, hopefully it doesn't happen again. But you're going to need to see some development from these younger Knicks that have been recently drafted, that are still on rookie minimum contracts. That the Knicks really need to develop into something, or else they're in bad shape going forward. All right, that'll do it. I got to get to work right now, but I'm glad I was able to get my thoughts out on the Yankees. As I mentioned, I'll be more locked into that with Mike Brown being hired as the Knicks head coach. we're about to find out whether or not, the Knicks will use. I mean, they will use these last 2 veterans minimum spots. About to find out who it is, and we got Summer League coming up, so we'll be talking about that, and obviously more Yankees, and one giant step out this week with Sean Morash. Stay tuned for that. Very interesting episode coming, and I'm gonna get a lot of hate for it, but stay tuned. That'll be fun. All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in, and hope you all had an amazing 4th of July weekend. Talk to you all soon. Peace.